Alex thinks this humming sound is the echo of the original Big Bang from the cosmos. I don't think it is, but he does. What do you think, McClinda? You have to study it. Get some grant money. Sadhaputta told me one time, a bona fide scientist, double PhD, tenured professor at Cornell University, smartest man I ever met materially. And he said, if you want to see where the theory of survival of the fittest comes from, he said, watch college professors fight over grant money. He said, it's vicious. They thought they recorded it at Parkes Observatory. You know that story, don't you? In Australia. What did it turn out to be? The microwave oven. I love it. And you know another one, I couldn't make this up if I wanted to. You know that Super Hadron Super Collider, the one that the atom smasher, cost how many $billion? It was like $2 or $3 billion. I mean, just an inconceivable amount of money. It's built on the border of Switzerland and France. They turned the thing on, zzz, fritzed out, completely fritzed out. You know why? One of the workmen, electricians, had left a loaf of French bread in one of the circuit boards. Yeah, 100% true. I can show you the article. Well, that cost another couple $100 million to fix that. Blew out all the circuitry. It's just a joke. Hold on a sec here. Talk about jokes. Oh, Govinda. Now, everything is perfect. What do you think, Alex? No effect of the modes. Actually, when we were in the... Anyway, it's another story. Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Yeah. Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Gopijana Balava Jivanadari. Gopijana Balava Jivanadari. Yasoda Nandana Brajana Ranjana. Yasoda Nandana Brajana Ranjana. Jamuni Tira Natari. Jamuni Tira Natari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Gopijana Balava Jivanadari. Yasoda Nandana Brajana Ranjana. Jamuni Tira Natari. Jamuna Tira Natari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Whoa! Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari, Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Pri Vijayachaya Asit Shishim, His Divine Grace, Abhaya Children, Bhakti Vedanta Sai Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Kota Vaishya Brinda Ki. Nam Char Shri Thakur Ki. Prem Shri Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sari Gaur Bhakta Brinda Ki. Say Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Gita Govardhan Ki. Vrindavan Dham Ki. Mathura Dham Ki. Dwarka Dham Ki. Navadi Dham Ki. Jagannath-puri Dham Ki, Jamuna Maya Ki, Ganga Maya Ki, Tulsi Maharani Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Samveda Bhakti Vinda Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Say Radha Giridhari Ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jaga Ki, Gopremanande. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to the divine lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Dr. Alex, you got the job. Thank you, Prabhu. Thanks a lot. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Krishna Sudamo Bhagate Damaganadi Bisaha Kalana Sadasham Mesha Parano Konadodita Narayana Namaskichananam Chaivam Narotama Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. The Bhagavatam is his Brindas' son, is it arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied with knowledge, religion, etc. Persons who have lost their vision to the dense darkness out of the age of Kali should get light from this Purana. Before beginning our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, we should first offer respects to the personality of God Narayan, to the Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, the goddess of learning, Mother Saraswati, the author Srila Vyasadeva, and my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada. Tasyam sa. In the right place? Okay. Janayam chakra atmajam asitekshanam yavi yasha shapta sutan shapta dravida Bhubrita Tasyam Sajanayam Chakra Atmajam Asitekshanam Yaveyasa Sapta Sutan Sapta Dravida Bhubrita Tasyam Sajanayam Chakra Atmajam Asitekshanam Yaveyasa Sapta Sutan Sapta Dravida Bhubrita Tasyam Sajanayam Chakra Atmajam Asitekshanam Yaveyasa Sapta Sutan Sapta Dravida Bhubrita Atmajam Asitekshitam Atmajam Tekshitam Yaveyasa Shapta Sutan Shapta Dravida Bhubrita Tasyam Sajanayam Chakra Atmajam Asitekshanam Yaveyasa Shapta Sutan Sapta Dravida Bhubrita Tasyam, through her, Sa, the king, Gyanayam, Chakre, begot, Atmajam, daughter, Asita, blue or black, Ikshanam, whose eyes, Yaviyasa, younger, very powerful, Shapta, 7, Sutan, sons, Shapta, 7, Dravida, the province of Dravida or South India, Bhu, of the land, Brita, kings. Translation: King Malyadvaja fathered one daughter who had very black eyes. He also had 7 sons who later became rulers of that tract of land known as Dravida. Thus, there were 7 kings in that land. Also, you say, King Malyadvaja fathered one daughter who had very black eyes. He also had 7 sons who later became the rulers of that tract of land known as Dravida. Thus, there were 7 kings in that land. Purport. King Malyadvaja was a great devotee, and after he married the daughter of King Vidarbha, this is our Paranjana, now Vidarbhi, he gave her one nice daughter whose eyes were black. Figuratively, this means that the daughter of the king, Maladvaja, was also bestowed with devotional service, for her eyes were always fixed on Krishna. A devotee has no vision in life other than Krishna. The 7 sons are the 7 processes of devotional service: hearing, chanting, remembering, offering, worshiping, offering worship, offering prayers, rendering devotional translated loving service, and serving the lotus feet. Of the 9 types of devotional service, only 7 were immediately given. The balance, anyone know? Sakyam Atma Nivedanam, friendship, and full surrender, surrendering everything, were to be developed later. In other words, devotional service is divided into what? 2 categories. One is Vidya Bhakti, and what's the other? Raga Bhakti, yeah. So here it says, devotional service is divided into 2 categories. One, namely Vidya Marg, and the other is Raga Marg. What does Vidya Marg mean? Other than Dravida and Vijay. It means following the rules and regulations, staying within the lanes, following and like that. And then what does Raga Marg mean? Spontaneous. Okay. The process of becoming friends with the Lord and sacrificing everything for Him belong to the category of Raga Marg, the stage of developed devotional service. For the neophyte, the important processes are those of hearing and chanting, Shravanam, Kirtanam, remembering Krishna, worshipping the deity in the temple, offering prayers, always engaging in the service of the Lord, and worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord. And Prabhupada points out, we'll get into this in a second, but worshipping the lotus feet, what does that mean? Does that mean massaging Krishna's feet on the altar? How do we worship the lotus feet? Very good. And I was also, we're going to get into a second, I have, by Krishna's grace, Bhanu Maharaj's translation of the Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentaries on the Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada also said, just to confirm, Prabhupada, we'll get into that in a second, but it means menial service. Taking some humble service. Let me clean the floor, humble service, and serving the Vaishnava. So it means those 2 things, Padasevanam. The word Yaviyasha indicates that these processes are very powerful. After a devotee engages in the process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, 7.5.23 is where Prahlad Maharaj explains to his father the process of devotional service. And after a devotee engages in the process of these 7, and is able to secure these processes, he later becomes a devotee capable of rendering spontaneous devotional service, namely Sakya and Atmanivedanam, friendship and surrendering everything. Generally, the great acharyas who preach devotional service all over the world belong to this category of Sakyam Atmanivedanam. A neophyte devotee cannot actually become a preacher. The neophyte is advised to execute devotional service in the 7 other fields, Shravanam, Kirtanam, etc. If one can successfully execute the preliminary 7 items, he can in the future be situated on the platform of Sakyam Atmanivedam. The specific mention of Dravida Desh refers to the 5 Dravida Deshas in South India. All are very strong in rendering the preliminary devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtan, etc., Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.23. Some great acharyas like Ramanujacharya and Madhvacharya who also come from Dravida Desh and became great preachers. They were all situated on the platform of Sakyam Atmanivedanam. Om Ganate Marandasya Gana Gana Salakaya Jakshush Unmilitan Gena Tazare Shri Gurave Namaha. Now, there is sometimes criticism raised by foolish and arrogant people, not in knowledge, that Prabhupada's Sanskrit in his translations they are sometimes seem to merge into purports. That sometimes you find that, just like here it says asita means blue or black. And Prabhupada says black eyes. And then Prabhupada goes on to say, actually it means one who's attracted to Krishna. Well, you will not find that exactly in the word for word. Now there's several things, several answers to this. Harisari told me that they were reading, he was giving Prabhupada his massage, and Prabhupada was reading letters. They were reading different letters that Prabhupada had received. And one scholar had written a review of Prabhupada's books and said no doubt deep scholarship, no doubt beautiful, makeup, how the books are printed and laid out, and everything's first class. The only thing is that Bhaktivedanta Swami stresses only Krishna and only Bhakti. That was in the letter. That was the criticism. At which point, Harisari said, Prabhupada slapped his hand on the mat and said, he said, this is my point. I've written these books in such a way that they cannot squeeze any other meaning out of it. They cannot, it's very clear. But actually, even more than that, Prabhupada is speaking from the platform of realization. Prabhupada often said they'd be reading Krishna book or Nectar Devotion, and Prabhupada would say, did I write that? And Prabhupada would say, no, actually Krishna has written that. And it was not said in an arrogant way, it was said in a humble way. Do you know, Bhakta Alex, different materials have different degrees of conductivity, of electricity. For example, rubber is not much. It actually uses insulation. Wood is not much, but a little bit better. Then, of course, you've got water. You've got different things. And you get up to copper. I think you get up to different types of fiber optics. Platinum, I think, is better than copper, but I'm not sure about that. Why? More current is going through, but anyone know why more current is going through? Less resistance, exactly so. There's less resistance, so more current can flow. So for someone who is a fully surrendered servant of Krishna, the Bhagavatam becomes revealed. So first off, it was Prabhupada's design that they could not range off. One of my favorite guys is, I'll say the name, Swami, so-called Swami Chinmayananda. I say so-called Swami because later it came out that he got the young girl making his tea pregnant. Another one of his mystic powers, because of course he was a celibate. But he says Hari. Well, it says surrender to Hari. And now Hari means one who takes away, right? Who takes away, Alex? Thieves. Dr. Glenn, when are thieves active, generally speaking? At night. At night, it's dark, right? When it's dark, you can't see anything. When you can't see anything, it's unknown. So here's Hari, and he's gone Krishna. Surrender to Krishna. And he's gone to, thief and night and dark and unknown. And therefore, it means when it says surrender to Krishna, it doesn't mean Krishna the person. It means surrender to the unknown. Just as a sidelight, I just finished reading the latest version of the Prabhupada Memories, because this is the business of one who actually knows the truth. That Prabhupada's on a morning walk with that Dr. Patel, and Dr. Patel, Prabhupada, why do you criticize everyone? Why do you criticize? And he's a doctor. Prabhupada said, if you're a doctor and you're doing a surgery and someone comes in and is sneezing and coughing and messing around with your operation, do you just tolerate? You say, get out, rascal. Prabhupada said people are diseased, conditioned, suffering in the material world, and we're trying to get them out, and these people are just completely fuzzing the whole path out, making the whole thing murky and unknown and cheating people. What kind of gentleman lets people just be cheated? I have to say something. Also, Prabhupada was speaking, we're going to, if we have time, we're going to get a little more of this friendship and surrender of everything, but this genuine friendship. If you practice the first 7, then you will develop friendship. Like, how do you, a genuine friendship, it develops by developing trust in the person, knowledge of the person. Anyone know, for extra points, the 6 principles of developing loving relationships? You can name 2, Dravida, because they go in 2s. To giving gifts and accepting gifts. What's another one? Revealing one's mind in confidence. And what's the other side? Inquiring submissively. And what's the other one? Which is throughout Chaitanya Charitamrita, distributing prasadam, giving prasadam, and taking prasadam. So these exchanges, when we engage in the 7 principles that are named Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, that develops a relationship. There's an exchange. How can you, if you never send somebody a card, you never call them, there's no exchange, interaction, can you call that love? Can you trust that person? Can I open up the phone book, Bhakti Alex, and pick out a name? Alice Witherspoon. Sounds like an interesting name. Love her, Alex. Surrender everything. Of course, Alex is a brahmachari. He'll say, what? Swami's gone off the rocker. But the principle is, well, you would say, well, let's say a male friend. You want to, Mr. Alex Witherspoon. Well, you say, what's he like? What's he look like? What's his nature? Did we share any shared likes? Isn't that otherwise? How else you develop a relationship? So this point is with these initial 5, because Krishna never cheats. Like in the issue, of course, of gamblers, I'm the cheat, but that's another thing. He cheats them out and gives you the real thing. But the point I'm trying to make is that just like in Ishopanishad, where at one of the last mantras, the protagonist, the speaker says, even if I forget you, because at the time of death, Maharaj Katvangu, the voice gets choked up, so many things. Even if I forget you, please don't forget me. And Prabhupada explains in the purport that even a little bit of service, Krishna never forgets. So when we engage in these initial 7, the heart becomes cleansed and a relationship develops. And we develop confidence. How can I surrender if I don't have confidence? Like, don't they do those team building things? That you fall back and they're supposed to catch you? And that's supposed to help develop confidence. So how do we have confidence if we haven't gone out on a limb for Krishna? If we haven't extended ourselves, we're by Krishna's grace, we're going to figure out something to do for the Christmas marathon. And unless we go out and put ourselves in need of Krishna's mercy, unless we take a risk for Krishna, unless we push ourselves for Krishna, well, I don't like talking to these people. Well, Prabhupada said, I am not nonviolent. Nobody invited me to your country. Who is that devotee? Manidhar is his name? The German devotee? Who used to go up to people in the park reading a famous story. Preacher told me, this guy's reading a newspaper in the park. Manidhar sits down next to him, pulls out a lighter that he uses for his puja, lights the guy's newspaper on fire. Oh my sweet! And in his German heavy, I could not stand to see you in such anxiety. Preacher said people would buy a book from him. Either they were convinced or they thought he was crazy. Either way, they didn't want to mess with him. They would just buy, all right, fine, I don't advocate this. But my point is that unless we take a risk for Krishna, unless we take a challenge, how will we develop love for him? Unless we fall back and we experience Krishna catching us. That's how the relationship builds. And so there it is. And then the result is when you have that confidence that Krishna is real. I was going to say about friendship and Krishna being real. Burjan was describing in that memories books. I gave it to Balaram. When Balaram finishes it, he can put it in the library and the rest you can read. There's a lot of nectar in there. So Prabhupada was invited, Burjan, whatever. Prabhupada's at a program, and there's several speakers. Prabhupada spoke first. And knowing what, anyway, I'll just get to the point. Prabhupada spoke first, and then this bearded, saffroned sannyasi begins to speak. And it's in Hindi, so the devotees don't know what he's saying. And after about 5-6 minutes into the thing, Prabhupada turns to Burjan. Prabhupada's on the stage, sitting on a chair, the man's on, and Prabhupada says, "Stop him." There's an audience, this guy's on there speaking. Burjan just freezes. I would freeze. Prabhupada looks at Burjan again. He said, like those in the movies, when the lasers are the daggers are coming out. Prabhupada says, "Stop him." And then Prabhupada says, "Start kirtan." Okay, that they could do. So right in the middle, they got a Madangan car. They stood there having this roaring kirtan. They just drowned the guy out. I mean, who does that kind of thing, And then, I don't know how the program wound up, but I imagine it was kind of on at least for the people who had some questions in their mind. When Prabhupada got back in the car, Prabhupada was quite proud of himself, quite, not arrogant, but was quite pleased with himself. Prabhupada says, "I could not tolerate." He said, in the beginning it was all right, but then he was, Dravita's my friend, Vijayas are my friend, you're all my friends, but I mean, these are my good friends, and Vijay. And if somebody starts to say, well, that Vijay is a weasel, and, he doesn't really distribute books, he just goes out to talk to women, I mean, what am I going to think? Somebody says, oh, that Dravita is just a bookworm. I mean, what kind of friend am I? I'm going to say, given my nature, I'll throttle them, but no. You can't say, I know this person. You can't. That is just not true. You can't say it. It's not true. So someone who actually has seen Krishna, knows Krishna, has full confidence that Krishna is real. And somebody's going off, oh, Krishna's not there, Prabhupada just couldn't, you offend my friend, Prabhupada just couldn't tolerate it. Just, no. Wouldn't stand for it. So that level of ecstasy, what time is it? Because I do want to read something just for fun. Just as a sidelight, Prabhupada, well, I'll just say it. I'm filtering out what I let's say this. When Prabhupada was, there were devotees, it was Guru Kripa and Yasodanandan, I think was his name. It was another sannyasi. And they were in South India. And they met a number of, because Prabhupada mentions South India, and they're very strict. They're very, strict in their rules and regulations, and it's good, They're just, you see a nice South Indian mother brings her kid in, and she's, it's like a Gumby toy. Pull your ears, bow down here, stand over here, do this, turn around 3 times, all the different, very strict smarta rules. So our Western sannyasis, young men, were preaching in South India, and the very strict Brahmins said to him, it's very good that you're engaging in this Sankirtan mission and preaching. And in your next life, you'll be able to take birth in South India as a nice South Indian Brahmin and worship the deities. So they shared that with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, what did you say? And, devotees, and on one hand, it's a good thing. They were humble and they were, polite and all that stuff. But Prabhupada said, what did you say? Does anyone know what they should have said? Drita. Yeah, he says, it's very good that you're strictly following all these rules and regulations. And the fruit of that you'll be able to take birth in the West in Lord Chaitanya's mission and preach. And Prabhupada makes that point here, that one who acts, it's not that, if you actually love someone, oh, I'm in, Radhakund, and I'm swooning, and I'm hearing the sound of the flute, and, I just, so many different things, I'm shedding tears all the time, and I can never leave Vrindavan. On one hand, that's a nice, and Prabhupada points out, a devotee, did Prabhupada ever leave Vrindavan? Well, on what? Yeah, you're correct. Geographically, you're correct. But wherever Prabhupada went, Vrindavan was with him. He never left Vrindavan. So in a similar fashion, that one who actually loves someone, what Krishna has, Krishna's Atmaram, he's self-satisfied, fine, I know that, he has his gopis, everything's fine in Krishna Loka, and Vaikuntha literally means no anxiety. Okay, fine, I understand that. But on a higher level, what is Krishna's anxiety? As expressed, the exoteric meaning for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. Yeah. So if one of our godbrothers has a fever, has a headache, has a boil, whatever, and we're a doctor, what is the natural instinct? Well, tough luck for you, karma. What's the natural instinct? To help him out. How to relieve the pain. So if I love Krishna, and Krishna's feeling transcendental pain over the suffering of the jivas, what is the proof of my love? That I'm just absorbed thinking about my friend. Oh, my friend is so wonderful. I love my friend. Oh, my wonderful. Okay, that's fine. That's good. That I offer my respects. But what's a higher level? I help my friend. I relieve his pain. That's love. That again, it's that exchange. It's that interaction of devotional service. So the sign that one loves Krishna, of course we do it out of duty, we do it for so many different reasons. Actually, one of the reasons to go on Sankirtan is adventure. Sit Vijay down, and in his aggregate total years of book distribution, so many far out things have happened. You talk to any of us, you talk to any of us, our years in devotional service, so many far out things happen. Krishna says, and I was thinking, we're a little afield, but we've got a few minutes. I was thinking when I was 17 and a half, and I got my whole life in front of me, do I really want to move into an ashram? And I had my concepts that, well, it's restrictive, and and I'll just, I want to see the world. I got that, I got things I'm a pretty passionate person. What am I gonna? I'm an inveterate tourist. Ask Mukunda. We stopped and saw those parrots or whatever. It was kind of fun, actually. So. But I remember, and I was thinking, I wanted to move in. I knew I should move in. I knew it was the best thing to do with my life. But I thought, gee, I don't want to just, I like it, whatever. And I read a verse. Krishna says, in the opulence of the absolute, I think, or maybe it's chapter 10, whatever it is. But Krishna says, I'm adventure. I thought, well, there it is. You just surrender to Krishna, adventure will come. And it's a fact. You talk to people, they were in the same high school, and they married their high school girlfriend, or, they never left their city. Just. And, okay, fine. They went to Paris. But you talk to devotees having a long life in devotional service, jeez, the things that have happened. So, I don't know exactly how we got off on that. But, so different reasons to go out on Sankirtan. It's our duty to save the conditioned souls. It's certainly going to be You're young men. Get out in the field. Mix it up. What is it, Junior Haridas and Nityananda would have to run, sometimes they'd be chased by Jagai and Madai. Just barely. Haridas Thakur would knock on the door, and just humility personified. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur calls it humble persuasion. Please, you're very learned, you're very renounced, you're very beautiful, you're very, so many, praise, and say, now, for just one moment, please put all that aside and hear the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What was Lord Nityananda's method of preaching? He would bang on the door, bang, bang, bang. What the hell? They'd open the door. He'd fall on the floor. He'd roll, breaking the pots. He was just bursting with ecstasy. Haridas Thakur would go back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and said, don't send me out with this madman anymore. I'm just getting them to surrender. And he manifests all this ecstasy. Of course, everyone was swimming and floating in pools of ecstasy. But just, you go out on Sankirtan, it just, you never know. I mean, we have to figure out how to do it and all that stuff, but you never know who's behind the door, who's going to stop, or they're going to challenge you. You got to be smart. You got to restudy the philosophy. Tamal Krishna Maharaj used to think, he told me this personally, that when he was in India, he thought the book distributors they were scam artists. I mean, they were good, he wasn't criticized, scam's not the right word to say, but they were good shuckers and jivers. They were salesmen. They were very good salesmen. That's what he thought. He said, they know how to run a good rap. And then when he came back to America and started the Radha Damodar party and used to listen to what the Sankirtan devotees would say on Sankirtan, he said, geez, they're reading the books, they're philosophers, they're being challenged all the time by the materialistic enjoyer and the impersonalist and the Buddhist and the Christian, and they're getting challenged all the time. And they got to read the books, they got to be sharp. He told me personally, he was very, very impressed by the caliber of the book distributors, that the service itself obliges you to become a powerful preacher. So the simple point we're trying to make is that if you do okay, here's a quiz based on the purport and based on what Prabhupada said. I'm not going to give you any more of a hint. If we do and Prabhupada, here's the big hint. Well, I'll give you the hint later if you need it. If we do then we will get B. And according to the purport, that's all I'm going to say. What is A? The first 7 processes. If we follow those first, we follow the rules and regulations, and if you look at it, how expertly Prabhupada has crafted ISKCON. Just get in the boat. Everything is there. You'll wind up fine. It's like, I don't mean to stereotype it, but if you look at a conveyor belt, like a factory, you've never seen how it molds the plastic? I met a guy one time. He worked at the River Rouge stamping factory on book distribution in Detroit. I said, what do you do? He said, I work at the river, and Prabhupada said factory is another name for help. So I asked him, what do you do? And Prabhupada said, and the man told me that, he said, I put in the sheet of metal, I pull the lever, when it comes out, it's all bent to hell. He didn't even know what it was. Wham! It was the River Rouge stamping. They were stamping out the metal parts that later on went into different parts of the car and this and that. He just slide in it, wham, wham, all day long. Can you imagine what that does to your brain? And he didn't even inquire, well, what am I making? But if you look at a more sophisticated, the raw product comes in and it's cut, shaped, molded, heated up, and this and this, and it comes out the end package. So we're coming in completely covered with the modes of material nature. We have a little shraddha. We have a little faith. Usually we're suffering and we have a little faith. Well, that's not working, and they look like they're having a good time. All right, let me try it. It's usually it's not simple. It's that existential, that this is not working, and it doesn't look like it's working for anybody else. And, the devotees, I can never shave my head, but it looks like they're having a good time. At least I'll hang out. Or whatever, That little bit of shraddha. And then once we take up these other processes, of course there's an issue, all that. But it comes down the line. It comes out. It works. You put the piece of metal on the beginning of the conveyor, and it comes out, and it's the end product. So Prabhupada has crafted ISKCON so expertly. If we just follow it, morning program, 16 rounds minimum, service of the Vaishnavas, book distribution, Harinam. If we just do it, what is the fruit? Now we mentioned 7. We know there's 9. 9 minus 7 equals what, Ram? 2. And what are those 2? Yeah, to have Krishna as our friend, to actually realize suhridam. There's different types of friends, casual friends, relationship, family friends, but suhridam, means auspicious, and it means also with the heart. Suhridam is a special type of friend. Suhridam sarvabhutanam. Krishna is that type of friend. To have Krishna as that friend and to be able to surrender everything. Does anyone know? I read, and Prabhupada mentions it later on, confirmed by Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, what are examples of Atmanivedanam, surrendering everything? What are some examples? Bali Maharaj. And there's another one, and there's a third that I remember, which anyway, I'll say it. Let me find out what the other ones are. Bali Maharaj, of course we know. What's another one? Who's the embodiment of Ambarish Maharaj, who's the embodiment of all 9. And was he a sannyasi, Ram? Was he a yogi? Was he? No. He was a king, but he was fully engaged in active devotional service. As it says in the end here, about the 5 sons, is it what, 7 sons? 5 sons, 7 sons of Dravida, South India. Prabhupada points out that actually those 7 sons are these 7 processes of devotional service, and they conquer all the land. Kings conquer. What are they conquering? Prabhupada says karma, jnana, yoga. They all become conquered by these, fulfilled and conquered by these 7 processes. So we gave a little taste what it means to have Krishna as our friend, but also to have that confidence that I can just surrender to Krishna. Everybody's in anxiety. Everybody's in fearing. Everyone's worried what's going to happen next. When's that wrecking ball going to come through the window? And even if we're not thinking that, even if everything's going great, how long will it last? But imagine just knowing that I can just surrender to Krishna. Prabhupada gives Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur in this purport on this gives the example of surrendering everything of a cow. That the cow just depends on the master. Just depends. No, it's not worried. No problem. So imagine the relief of by following these 7 processes, you come to the point of developing that friendship. And when you have that friendship, then you can just surrender everything. What's another example? We have the example. There's one more. And we have Bali Maharaj. We have Ambarish. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says Rukmini is an example of Atmanivedanam, simply surrender to Krishna. So, I think we can end there. Well, I'll do it. I will. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I want to read, because this Prabhupada says the devotees see Krishna everywhere, and because he was talking that Asita, that her eyes were always fixed on Krishna, seeing Krishna everywhere. So the devotee asked Prabhupada, what was Arjuna's meditation on the battlefield of Kurukshetra? Was he seeing the universal form? Was it, what was he seeing? Prabhupada said, what was he seeing? I was sitting there. Prabhupada said, what was he seeing? He was thinking how to fix the arrow, where to aim, He was focused on what he was doing. And Prabhupada said, but he was thinking about Krishna before, he was thinking about Krishna at the end, and he was performing the activity for Krishna. So past, present, and future were all focused on Krishna. So the devotees, we understand I see God everywhere, I found my home in Om. We are light years ahead of them. Krishna shows us, if you ever went on a morning walk, there it is, but going on a morning walk with Srila Prabhupada, it was amazing how he was that there's that great line by Hayagriva, that Prabhupada had both feet on the ground, but his mind fixed in Vaikuntha. I mean, you could see it. Prabhupada was the most practical person you can imagine. But he was seeing Krishna everywhere. So how does a devotee see Krishna everywhere? Are we seeing a blinding light? Like the guy who asked Prabhupada, when I chant, I hear lights, I see lights, I hear bells. Anyone know Prabhupada's classic answer? Keep chanting, it'll go away. The guy thought, oh, this is some very elevated, Bhakti Charumarsh sitting right here in SanDiego. Maybe you were here, Ram. And some guy was going off about, my ecstasies, and I feel my ecstasies emanating out, and this whole thing, right? And, sweet, gentle Bhakti Charumarsh, let the guy go on for a while. And then Bhakti Charumarsh said, have you ever taken, what is that called? LSD? Because the guy's brain was all scrambled up with some kind of a hodgepodge, That's not what we're talking about. How does a devotee see Krishna everywhere? So I had a little time. Well, I took a little time yesterday. I have a right to an internal life every now and then. So this is from Bhagavad Gita, and I'm just going to zip right through these. Chapter 7, Krishna says, everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So you can have a beautiful necklace. You don't even see the thread. You break the thread. What's the necklace, right? So how to see Krishna as the active principle, the cause of all causes, the sustainer, the maintainer, the cause, the generator, the be-all and end-all of all things. So he gives some examples. Krishna helps us out. I'm the taste of water. I'm the light of the sun and the moon, the sound in ether, the ability in man. Anything we do successfully, that's only by Krishna's grace. The original fragrance of the earth, the heat of fire, the life of all that lives, the intelligence of the intelligent, the prowess of all powerful. So whenever you see something successful, powerful, you taste, you can see what is the essence of light, what's the essence of water, is that pure taste. You can see Krishna. And that's not it. He picks it up again in the opulence absolute. I'm going to read this list. It's just cool. He's the Lord of all wealth, of bodies of water. I'm the ocean, of immovable things, the Himalayas, of weapons, the thunderbolt. Thunderbolt, just, what can stand against it? Fishes, I'm a shark. Nobody argues with a shark. Purifiers, I'm the wind. Dispensers of law, the Lord of death. That's pretty much the end of judgment. There's no appeal in that case. Of subduers, I am time. All things must bow down before time. Of all devouring death and the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Of seasons, I'm flower-bearing spring. Of gamblings, I'm the cheat. No one can beat it. Of splendid, I'm the splendor. I am victory, adventure, and the strength of the strong. We're almost done. Of means of suppressing lawlessness, I am punishment. Of those who seek victory, I am morality, which is an interesting hint. Of secret things, I am silence. Of the wise, I am wisdom. So just by a few of these, we can see Krishna acting everywhere, Krishna sustaining everything. That's how devotee sees God everywhere. It's not some blinding light or some weird mental conception. It's reality. So we'll end here. But that's for us. If we just follow the 7, we'll get the 2. Krishna is our best friend and fully surrendered, which means no anxiety, no fear, no masucha, no hesitation, no fear, no anxiety. Bold from the beginning of an endeavor. That's the gift of devotional service. So we have the absolute truth, we have the gift, Bhakti Alex. Do we sit on it and relish it, or what do we do with it? We distribute it. Okay, thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. And the amazing thing, Alex, sorry to be picking on you, but you're sitting in front. If water does not move, what happens to it? Dr. Glenn, what happens if water just sits? Stagnates. How do you know if you're going to drink, what kind of water do you drink? We'll finish, but Harivilas told me this. When bottled water was first happening, there was a time when it was a rare commodity and very expensive, and the best bottled water in the world at the time was Perrier. It comes from France. Avion, which is naive spelled backwards. Anyway. So they got Prabhupada a bottle of Perrier, and they opened it up and they poured it. Prabhupada said, no. From the tap. Prabhupada had them turn on the tap and run the water for a while, Because Prabhupada said it was running, it was flowing. So knowledge, if we just keep it within inside, it festers. But if you distribute it, if it's flowing, if you're reading and gaining and sharing, if that flowing process of hearing, Vishnu Smaranam, then it's purifying. Okay, we can end. Thank you, Prabhu.